Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to The Box. This is the interior of our 2013 Mitsubishi Fuso FG that I'm turning into an Overland camper. In previous videos, I've been working on the bed frame. I added the wall structure for the shower and bedroom wall, and I started wiring some of the electrical outlets. My 3/4 inch long screws for the corners of the bed frame have finally arrived, so I'm going to start with that. I'm also going to do a little bit more work on the electrical system, and then I've got something to show you that you might find quite interesting. Where did I put my 3D printed parts? Despite this being quite a small space, I seem to have a tendency to put things where I can't find them. So I haven't put them in the top cupboards. I haven't put them in the bottom cupboards. Those are different parts. I do have a lot of stuff stashed in a lot of places, including underneath the cupboards, underneath the, oh, there they are, underneath the floor. Step one for assembly is going to be taking these T-nuts and these 3/4 inch bolts, putting them together in the corner gussets. And then step two is simply to pop them in place in the corners and tighten them up. Well, let's see if we can get this one in with one hand filming and the other hand installing. So all I've done is I've lined the nuts up mostly to be parallel with the slots. So we should be able to drop it in this way, slide it across that way, and then when I tighten the bolts, the nuts will grab. So far, everything's going according to plan.
Don't ever say that.
There we go. I'll give it a little bit more tighten with my clutch down pretty low. That corner now should not be able to come apart. The nice thing about using that style of drop-in T-nut is it only takes seconds to get in place, as you can see. You don't have to slide it in from the end, which means you don't need an open end, but they are more expensive than the flat nuts that I've been using in the 1010. And when you get down into the smaller sizes of T-slot, like the 1010 that I'm using in a lot of places, the size of the gap in the track isn't really big enough to get a large T-nut in and turn it and have enough material, so it really only works on the larger T-slot extrusions. But since they work on the bed frame, I'll happily use them here. Well, that's interesting. Maybe back up and erase the last couple scenes here. I just made a bit of a discovery. When I took the corner bracket and I installed it like this and then tightened the nut, everything seemed fine. But in reality, what I had done was I had the nut screwed on too far. So when I inserted it into the track, basically, let's see if we can get in there, the nut has turned and twisted sideways in the outer portion of the track, but it hasn't actually rotated far enough to catch the back. So effectively all I did was make jam nuts in slots that when I pulled on it, it actually just pulled back out again. What I need to do is make sure that I don't thread the nut on all the way. I wasn't actually threaded on all the way, but I just didn't have enough of a gap here, whereas here I have enough of a gap. In the previous video where I initially showed how this was going to work, it did work. The nut went in and rotated. I just didn't quite get it right this time. So let's try that again. By looking down the side of the extrusion, it is possible to see the nuts rotating, so this time I know they're going into place properly. Well, now that they're all tightened in properly, the structure has really stiffened up. And what I actually found was when you start tightening it by hand, if you don't see the nut rotate, you just back the bolt out a little farther and try again. And eventually you'll get to the point where the bolt is out far enough that the nut has room to rotate in. Now, while it may look like this bed frame is finished, it's not. I still need to run some longitudinal stiffeners in there that will both help support the crossbars that go this way It also helps support the entire structure when it's down and we're using the bed. There's also a really unique component that I'm going to be building in, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer to hear about that. So let's move back to doing some more electrical, but not over there, over here. Recently, you'll remember I ran the wire and installed the boxes for the 120 volt outlets, and I talked about using stranded instead of solid wire. There is one thing that you do need to take into account when we're doing this, and that is that standard 120 volt household outlets are not really designed for stranded wire. To connect to this style of outlet, you basically have two options. We've got screws on the side, and on the back there are push-in terminals, and it very clearly says push wiring, use solid wire only. So please don't try to push stranded wire into these connections. Now here's the issue with trying to use the screws with stranded wire. As you tighten the screw down, it's going to compress the wire, and the wire is just going to spread out sideways. So ideally, we don't want to just wrap a stranded wire around a screw and then tighten it. So what do? Get yourself some of these. This is a spade connector, and it's designed to go around a screw, but even this has a bit of a problem. This is a locking spade connector. As you can see, it's also designed to go around a screw, but it comes in past the outer diameter and locks in place. That is what you want to use. But if it's got screws on it, why not just use a ring connector? They're designed for screws as well. Well, these screws aren't designed to come out, so what you want to do is slip the connector over it and then tighten it down. If you back the screw all the way out, you can damage the threads, meaning you can't get the proper torque, which is where you can start getting arcing and melting and fire, and we don't want that. When stripping the jack and off wiring, be very cautious not to cut into the inner wires and use good strippers on the inner wires to avoid damaging the strands. Always use ratchet and crimpers to ensure that you don't damage the wire or insulation and that you get a full compression crimp every time. Next, we want to pop the wires onto the terminals. Green for ground, clearly, silver to white, and black to bronze. So the nice thing with these locking connectors is they don't come off easily. Right? They do come off if you need to remove them, but it doesn't just fall off. That's the reason we want that, is so that if a screw ever loosens up, a wire doesn't fall off and start arcing against the other terminal. Okay? So you can see those are all completely loose, but nothing's going anywhere. Now I just tighten up the screws. And now with the screw bearing down on the connector instead of the wire, it can't come apart. It's not squishing the screw. Nothing's going to shift around and become loose. I've also tightened the extra screws so they don't become loose and rattle around. We're going to put the outlet into the box, and then we'll put the cover on. And of course, the single most important thing about putting in an outlet and installing the cover plate, always make sure your cover plate screws line up with each other. Outlet number 1 completed. A couple more like that, hook it up to the panel, and we'll have power in several points inside the truck. The only thing I'm doing differently at this outlet is connecting the second wire set to the second set of screws on the outlet so we can continue the circuit. Even though I'm using weather-tight boxes, you've surely noticed that I'm not using liquid-tight strain reliefs, and you may be wondering why I would wire up an outlet without them. Don't worry, it will make sense later. With that outlet wired up, there's one more thing that I wanted to show you today, and that is this. This is a 32mm diameter, 600mm long pneumatic cylinder. And if you want to know the exact specs on it, well, I can't really help you because I can't read it. But what I can tell you is that the plan is to have one in each corner back here, and that is what's going to lift and lower this bed. If you're having trouble understanding how I'm going to get a 600mm stroke cylinder, or 2 Freedom Unit feet, to lift 4 Freedom Unit feet or 1200mm, Let me show you where I got this idea. This bed lift is actually something that I've been struggling with the design of from day one of wanting to do this build. And one day, about a month ago, I looked at my hoist. By wrapping a chain over top of the cylinder and dropping it down to the lowest lift point, we can make this lift all the way up to here. And while that may not seem like an amazing feat of engineering, what it does is it allows us to lift twice as high as the length of the cylinder, meaning we can use smaller cylinders to achieve the same lift. And that means the cylinders fit in the space that I have, they lift high enough to get the bed all the way to the ceiling, and the whole project works. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please make sure you hit the like button, and if you haven't already, hit subscribe. If you want to help support content creation like this, make sure you check out the links in the video description, and most importantly, don't forget to come back next time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.